warm welcome to the Kautilya Colloquy 2024 on a panel discussion on the theme digital governance. Today we come together to explore how governance can evolve in digital age, and we are privileged to have a panel of experts who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to this vital conversation. Our session will be guided by esteemed moderator, our very own Dr. Vishnu S. Pillai. Dr. Pillai is an assistant professor at the Kautilya School of Public Policy. His work, backed by a PhD in public policy from the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, focuses on risk analysis and AI technology regulation, two pillars that are central to digital governance. Now, let's meet our distinguished panelists. First, we are privileged to have Mr. Zayesh Ranjan, Special Chief Secretary of the Industries and Commerce and IT Department for the Government of Telangana. Mr. Ranjan is an exemplary civil servant whose forward-thinking leadership has helped propel Telangana's digital economy to new heights. He holds numerous degrees from top global university, and his work has been internationally recognized, including the prestigious Royal Order of the Polar Star for promoting Swedish-Indian business relationship. His contribution to fostering innovation and sustainability make him a cornerstone of digital governance. Next, we are honored to have Ms. Saranya Gopinath, the Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy at Razorpay. With her legal background and extensive expertise in fintech, AI, and inclusive technology, Ms. Saranya has been at the forefront of policy making in India, from her previous leadership roles at Google to her current work at Razorpay. She's a key player in shaping the future of India's digital payment ecosystem. Her insights into fintech technology will undoubtedly deepen today's discussion. And next we have our panelist, Ms. Sudipta Vera Paneni. She is the Partner and Chief Innovation Officer at Deloitte South Asia. With her expertise in Industry 4.0 technology, including smart factories and IIoT, Sudipta's work revolutionized industries like aerospace and consumer products. Her innovative solutions in advanced manufacturing are helping industries digitally transform, making her an indispensable voice in conversation on the future of governance in technology-driven sectors. Finally, we have Mr. Vikram Patil, the Director of Digital Literacy and Livelihood Initiative at NASCOM Foundation. With over 18 years of dedication to social impact sector, Mr. Vikram has been a beacon of change in financial inclusion, climate resilience, and community empowerment. His leadership in digital literacy and women's empowerment program has broken barriers, illustrating how digital governance can transform lives at the grassroots level. Today, together, this dynamic panel brings a rich blend of policy insights, technological leadership, and social impact, setting the stage for a compelling exploration of the evolving landscape of the digital governance. And with that, I am pleased to hand over the session to our moderator, Dr. Pillai.
Thank you, Sang, for the introduction, and welcome you all the panelists. So the topic is digital governance. Like as always, we'll start from the scratch, whether it's statistics or public policy or research methods. When you have governance, we always refer to Guy Peters' literature. So governance in itself is a notoriously slippery term. A lot of definitions in all the journal articles, and you can see a lot of videos on this one. So the first topic is from your experience. So they have a lot of we have a lot of textbookish knowledge. So from your experience, what do you mean by digital governance, or what is good digital governance? From your experience of working in the industry and with the government, what is digital governance, what is good digital governance, and what is happening over the years? What are the actors, institutions, what are the networks, what is the cohesion that is happening in the networks, and how powerful are these networks, and how these networks are influencing, implementing what are the governance that we're having. So let us start with Jayesh sir, the topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to fellow panelists. Good afternoon to everyone here. Very happy to be a part of this panel with other eminent practitioners. So in my understanding, digital governance can mean many things, but from a government's lens, there are two meanings. One is that how do we improve our own internal efficiency. See, governments typically, particularly in India and all in an Indian state, are considered to be very, very inefficient. They are supposed to be wasteful. They are not believed to be up to speed with technology and lack professionalism and so on. Much of it is true as well. So how do you improve your internal efficiency using technology? When some of these complaints used to be made about the government, maybe technology was not really available to this level of refinement. But now that it is available, how are you making use of it to make yourself much more efficient? All your internal processes are more efficient. And the other important understanding of digital governance is how are you improving the outreach to your stakeholders? So government obviously has multiple stakeholders for multiple issues, and how do you improve the outreach to these stakeholders to ensure that the stakeholders get a very seamless kind of experience. So the best exemplar of this anywhere in the world is in the country of Estonia. Many of you will be aware, it's a small country. It's a Baltic country, but it has earned this global reputation. They follow 5 principles. So the 5 principles are like this. Any G2C service, if you are a citizen in Estonia, whatever you expect from the government, there would always be 5 features in your transaction. So one, it will be presence-less. If you have to do something with the government, you don't have to physically go somewhere. I mean, you don't need to be present somewhere. You can be at your home and get that, whatever is expected, you can get that delivered. The second is it will be contactless, so you don't have to meet anyone. The third is that it will be paperless. There's nothing that you have to, like a paper, you don't have to kind of bring any paper or show any paper. All the records are electronic. And the other 2 are anywhere and anytime. I mean, you need not even be in Estonia to get a government service delivered. You could be sitting in India. Suppose you came on a holiday to India. You can still, whatever is expected to be done by a government agency for you back home in Estonia, you can get it done. And any time. So unlike typical government offices, which start at 10 o'clock and end at 5 o'clock, in Estonia, anything can be done at any time, 24/7. So this is the hallmark of digital governance. Contactless, presence-less, paperless, anytime, anywhere. So this is, of course, the gold standard, but different governments, different government agencies across the country, across the world, eventually have to move in this direction only to really epitomize the best opportunity or the most optimum use of technology which is available there. But then there is one more layer. So when I said this, that a citizen can get any government service very, very easily, etc. There's one very big presumption that he has access to digital infrastructure, which is not completely true in our Indian context. In the cities, we really don't worry too much about it. The digital infrastructure comes automatically. Most of us use our devices to access the digital world, and it happens in a very seamless way. But this is not always true, let us say in rural areas, remote areas, where sometimes the people don't even have expensive phones or even basic phones through which you can get to the digital world. And in many geographies, you don't have connectivity. So in India, there is a third layer that you also have to provide digital infrastructure, at least to these last mile kind of locations. So digital infrastructure, using technology to deliver every service possible in the Estonian kind of a gold standard way, and improving our own inefficiencies, or rather improving our own efficiencies to reduce these inefficiencies and the typical bureaucratic red tape that the government has talked about. So this is my take on digital governance.
Thank you, sir. And can we have the insights from Vikram sir?
Hello. Thank you so much. First of all, good afternoon and warm greetings to all of you. It's a privilege to be here today to speak alongside such an esteemed panel of experts. Jay sir has already touched upon what digital governance is all about. So let me start this by asking you all a simple question. How many of you have ever stood in long queues to apply for a document or pay a bill? Just raise your hands, please. quite a few. Now just imagine doing all of this with your phone or a computer. That's digital governance at its best, as simply to put it. So it's about providing citizens the access to technology is what digital governance is all about. So I'll keep that answer short and I'll hand it over to Sanjita.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And it's always a lot of stress taking on the pre-lunch panel, but I hope this is as engaging for all of you as it is already for me with my wonderful co-panelists. And of course, we have fantastic perspectives here, and as Ranjan sir brought us off to a great start with regards to digital governance, I'll try to take a slightly different slice of the conversation, which is digital governance as governance of large digital systems. And I'm going to be touching upon, let's say, my background in creating systems of digital public infrastructure, which we're all engaging with today. DPI has become a very widely used term over the past couple of years, for better or for worse, because I think everybody starts off trying to build a DPI without trying to build a large-scale infrastructure which has values and the systems of DPI, as opposed to DPI as the objective in itself. And in that, it was useful to kind of touch upon a couple of the principles which not only determine what a DPI is, but what a DPI may want to strive for. At best, in its best format, it tries to achieve some simple principles of economics, where it is achieved, it is something provided at scale, it is inclusive, it is non-discriminatory, and it is provided at an infrastructure scale. And of course, that changes from nation to nation. As Sir mentioned, in Estonia, what would be a scaled infrastructure would be an infrastructure that serves Tamil Nadu, or with Andhra and Telangana. That is the best format. But what does that mean, and how do you think about it from bottom up? Famously, Indian digital public infrastructure use a public-private partnership model for the delivery of last-mile services, where effectively to my mind, one of the most elegant features of the digital public infrastructure that we see in India is the restraint. What I mean by that is that the government focused on building core infrastructure and did not extend itself to also build the last mile delivery of it. The restraint in architecture, where they focused on saying the core infrastructure, whether it is in managing the economics of it, whether it is in managing the guiding principles, the architectural objectives, as well as the economic objectives of the guiding system itself, that will be the remit of the government. However, ensuring that this service reaches every citizen of the country will work with private investment, with as a function of interests of private parties, and that's how we will take it. Of course, the different DPIs that we've seen in India have experienced themselves on a spectrum of this. What I say when I refer to DPI, which meets all of this, may be UPI, right? That's one of the first things that comes to your mind. Perfectly meets the instance. NPCI, quasi-government entity, retains itself in managing the network, setting out the rules, and also works with the government in the economic objectives. But the private players that make it available to you are banks with the UPI apps. We understand this. However, Aadhaar is also a DPI, where for reasons inherent to the privacy and security of creating an identity system at scale in the country, it was important that a larger portion of that was retained by the government, and it was engaging with Aadhaar, whether it's in the form of verification or even as an enrollment center, which was done in a public-private partnership, but the ecosystem in itself is retained with the government. So this is just a high-level view of what the spectrum of DPI is. I'm sure there's a lot more conversation we can have into the incentives management and how that really flows out and impacts the governance of it. But I'll take a pause here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, so this is what happens when such intelligent people are addressing the question, and I'm the last one. I mean, I sort of see myself as an Indian at heart, right? And like Sir said, and Saranya also mentioned, Estonia is a gold standard for us, but the scale at which India is doing digital transformation, that is unmatched. So maybe I'll ask you guys a question. Which is obviously the first one will be a simpler one, and it will be like the GMAT entrance exam, right? The first one is going to be easy one. So which is the largest biometric identification system in the world? Yeah. Sorry, what did you say? Aadhaar, right? Which is the longest road network in the world? Take a guess. You won't be evaluated on this. No, in the world, which is the longest network, which country has the longest road network? So US is the first number one. The second one is India. And that, yesterday was on a government summit, which happened, which was called Arohan. And we had Mr. Nitin Gadkari as part of the keynote address. And I was told that he's on a Guinness Book World Record to be using the maximum number of cement in anywhere in the world, right? Because of the road construction that is happening. The second thing I wanted to ask you is in terms of the rural mapping, and you would have heard of some of the work that we are doing using technology, doing rural mapping. So any idea which country sort of does the most number of rural mapping using any kind of a technology? So India is the obvious answer. That the drone mapping exercise that we are doing right now, that's the largest rural drone mapping exercise done anywhere in the world, right? So the scale at which we are looking at, scaling some of these technologies, the innovations that are happening within the government. And one of the interesting things which came out yesterday was, I was with Dr. Arvind Gupta, who is the Digital Foundation India CEO. He said, if you had asked me 10 years back, a digital government policy, these three words would have never sort of come together 10 years back, right? It would have never crossed anyone's mind that you can bring all of these three together. And that over the last few years, in the last 10 years maybe, India has really transformed itself. The scale, while we all would crib saying that, we are standing in lines, our things are not happening, but I think there's a lot happening in terms of, how we are accessing some of these services. And one of the other example was that of, I don't know if you have heard of this app called Udaan. Udaan is really one of the, not lesser known, innovations that have come, but literally you don't really have to stand in line. And I've been one of the beneficiaries. I would say that I wanted to withdraw PF from my PF account, and I thought it will be a very cumbersome process. I will have to wait in line. I have to fill up some, umpty number of paperwork and all of that. All of that was done online. I sitting in the comfort of my house, I was able to submit the documents and receive the money within, I think it was less than 1 month. I got the money also. So, that was a savior for me. So I feel that, there's a lot that is happening around digital governance. And, all of you are in your early 20s. There's a long way for you to see how this pans out for all of you.
Thank you so much. So we have a lot of points from this thing. We had a lot of key points, like we have this inclusivity, the lack of infrastructure to have the last mile connectivity, the need for digital infrastructure. We also got an idea regarding what is good governance. So I'm just processing these things in my human intelligence and framing a question that in public policy, we always concerned about the actors, a lot of actors. And we can call this as an AI era. A lot of concerns regarding AI. And when we talk about governance, it's also about accountability. And when we have digital governance, privacy, cybersecurity, and all those issues. So in your experience, dealing with the diverse actors wherever it is, maybe the common public or with the bureaucrats or with the market, what are the biggest challenges that you are facing in dealing with the various difference in perception? And what do you think can be a way forward to overcome those perceptions to improve to deal with all the challenges that we have? Can we start with Jay, sir?
See, my experience has shown that the real smartness of a government is to bring as many players as possible into this whole mix of planning, designing, implementing, delivering, monitoring, etc. So, I mean, some of you may be familiar with it. Just about approximately 10, 12 days ago, we hosted a very large AI summit here. We called it the Global AI Summit. And lots of very brilliant people came who are AI experts, AI practitioners. But to my mind, one of the most satisfying parts of that summit was that as a government, we were able to onboard 26 partners. 26 partners will now be working with Telangana government to do different kinds of things. Someone will be involved in creating compute infrastructure. Someone will be involved in skilling. Someone will run use cases for the government. Someone will guide us exactly the things that you spoke about: privacy, confidentiality, security, ethics. Someone will actually do monitoring and evaluation. There's a very renowned global institution called JPAL. They are a part of MIT. So we signed up with them. They will do the monitoring and evaluation of all the AI initiatives we take. So that is how it is. So obviously, no one today can claim that he or she is the repository of all wisdom, all knowledge. Plus, you are dealing with a technology which is advancing at a very, very rapid pace. So if you have that smartness in you, as I said, that you be aware of who else is doing what, and you have this power or the ability to assimilate all of that, then your ends will be better met. So I guess that is how one should look at the stakeholders. Everyone has a role to play. You can't say that, I mean, as a government, I'll drive everything, I'll do everything. In the end, you will end up doing nothing actually, if you choose to do that way. And the other good thing is that lots of innovation, tech innovation today. I mean, there are people who represent large companies and large corporations, etc. But the reality is that while they continue to do what they are expected to do, but much more innovative usage of technologies, development of technologies is coming from young entrepreneurs, young innovators, whom we collectively call as startups. So how encouraging and embracing are you of the startup ecosystem is also going to be very, very critical. So the typical narrative is across the world, also in India, that governments should stay away from this world. This is not their cup of tea. And typically in Bangalore, for example, the startup ecosystem is very, very large, but the government did nothing to make it big or even make it start or make it grow. So that is the belief that, I mean, this is how we should be. The government should stay away, look at how things are evolving. And if something is very critical, then only you get into it. But in Telangana, we have believed in a completely different narrative, that government can really drive the innovation ecosystem. And we have been doing this for the last 10 years, and we are now reaping the benefits. We have seen how so many solutions, tech solutions, etc., are possible, some of which can potentially have a very transformative effect. And we have used many of them in agriculture domain, and so many other examples are there. So if you, I mean, to kind of summarize my answer to the question that you asked on how do you look at multiple players, stakeholders, first of all, there has to be an openness that anyone can contribute, many people are contributing, and then your strategy must be to bring everyone together and then derive the best benefit that you need to as a government for the benefit of your citizens.
I think I'll share from my experience, of having literally lived at with the communities, for the first 10, 12 years of my work experience. And I believe that solutions should be always designed from grounds up, that actually gives you an idea of how to kind of design solutions around, problems which are there on ground. And in a country as vast and diverse as India, I think digital governance is not just an opportunity, it's a necessity. Also because of the fact that, at times what we see is that infrastructure isn't present for digital governance, right? So that's the access that we want to build. And I think to build all of this, collaboration is the key. We have to have collaborations with governments, the private sector, NGOs, communities, all coming in together to bring in that component of designing solutions for the last mile. So that's something which is very vital. And at NASSCOM Foundation, we live by a simple philosophy, which is tech for good. We believe that technology is a very powerful tool which can be used to address social and economic challenges, especially for the marginalized population. So I think, adding to what Jay sir said, collaboration is the key to go about bringing in solutions for communities.
I've actually had the immense privilege of being in multiple vantage points in the ecosystem. Right now I'm in a startup. Before this I was in a large MNC, and earlier in an industry body. But the one combining thread through all of those experiences is that the multiple perspectives is a good thing. It's completely messy, don't get me wrong. It's like herding cats. And as policymakers, sometimes you just want single thread of logic, and you want to be able to tie it together neatly. But often you'll see that heterogeneity in objectives, the heterogeneity in incentives is what's really going to move the needle forward. Absolutely, as Ranjan sir and Mr. Vikram has mentioned, for the scale of what we want to achieve, it cannot happen by a single player. It definitely cannot happen with a single thought process. The multiple incentives is a good thing, because that brings people in, to establish their interest in the subject matter, right? If you want complete participation, if you want people to bring their best perspectives, it is not enough that they find it important, they should also find it valuable. This is an idealistic approach. I will also admit that it is completely utopian that all actors or all stakeholders are fully satisfied with their objectives being met. That cannot happen, and it should not happen. Because what that means is that one person is winning over the other. Having said that, as policymakers, your ability to bring logic, or more importantly, to make every project seem, or if not find value in every project for the different stakeholders, pulling in what may appear to be vastly different directions and getting some tangential logic around it, is what is going to make it reach the progressive end. It will not happen all at the same time. There may be different stages at which it happens. But to my mind, the most successful projects are the ones that are able to square the circle.
I fundamentally believe that you can invent alone, but you cannot innovate alone, right? And for innovation, you need collaboration, you need the ecosystem that all of you have spoken about. And, and beautiful examples from, Aadhaar, UPI, all of these, how innovation has to scale. It could be, it just cannot be something which is done in one village or one district, right? How do I take something which is very powerful, but put all the effort to be able to scale this across the nation? And that was very fascinating for me to just learn that, how something very simple, as Aadhaar or UPI, how it has been able to just take over the whole economy, the digital economy of India itself. So innovation for me in that sense should be something which is scalable, and for that you have to make it tech-enabled innovation, which is where the scalability and the adaptability of any innovation will come. And then you have the right policies and the procedures that needs to be put in place, the systems that need to be put in place. So one of the very important aspect in all this, I feel, is you could have a great idea, and it could be fantastic idea, excellent that way. But if you do not have the wherewithal to do the execution of that, then a very simple and average idea could be, with great execution, can sort of get you the most impact, versus a brilliant idea but very poor execution. So the execution is something which will be very important. Identifying which are the players to this, which are the personas, like you said, that needs to be addressed, and how do we have a method in place, like she said, is going to be very chaotic and messy, but have that method in the madness, right? Have that method in the madness, identifying when each one of these is going to come together. So the execution becomes very, very critical in my sense.